Hey guys, I want to very briefly discuss the incident of Aaron Smith Levin. So we're switching gears for a second to Scientology, of Aaron Smith Levin's arrest by the LAPD as he was standing outside the Scientology Center in Los Angeles. And I won't have a ton to say about it because there are people that are far more experts than I in the field of Scientology. But the reason I'm here in New Hampshire and the reason that I have a base of support to potentially keep going with this YouTube is because of Aaron Smith Levin. So I wanted to weigh in and just primarily show my support and also discuss how Scientology's tactics keep backfiring on them time after time. So I'll talk about the smart strategy Aaron employed in getting himself arrested and what are the repercussions, and also just talk about my experience with their tactics and their tactics to pull the right levers of power to get their target eliminated. And I won't go into long detail about my own personal story, although in about 2 days, I'll rehash it further because it'll be the 1-year anniversary since my firing. But I've experienced a Scientology because the Church of Scientology got me fired and essentially destroyed my career. Although my career is in the mainstream media, I was a local news anchor, so I didn't even like that career that much. But Scientology got me fired, so I can certainly relate to them going out of their way and concocting stories and essentially getting you screwed over something that is a molehill, which they turn into a mountain. And I'll very briefly go over my experience, and again, probably detail it much longer in a couple days. But I used to be a local TV news anchor. I was out in Yuma, Arizona, and when Lisa Marie Presley passed away, I wanted to honor her legacy because I felt the mainstream media was not covering a very important facet of her death. And this is that Lisa Marie Presley, who was a committed Scientologist for over 3 decades, left the church and was preparing to testify in support of her friend who was one of the Danny Masterson sexual assault or can't say it on YouTube, but you know what I'm talking about, victims. And I felt like when Lisa Marie Presley, the coverage of Lisa Marie Presley, her most heroic act, I think, in her life, and something that should have been part of her legacy, was that she was willing to testify against the Church of Scientology in favor of Danny Masterson's victims, that was not accounted for, and that you weren't really properly giving her due in her obituary. Essentially, Lisa Marie Presley was prepared to testify and say that Scientology, when Lisa Marie Presley was a committed member of it, Scientology called Lisa Marie Presley to tell her friend, who was one of Danny Masterson's victims, one of the Jane Does, to stand down and not go forward and press charges. To her guilt, to the day she died, Lisa Marie Presley did this and for the moment got this Jane Doe to stand down. Because of that guilt, she wanted to talk about that issue in court. So I bring all of this up just to kind of give an overview of kind of what they do. So after that happened, I posted a YouTube video and also the same article in a print edition on the KYMA. That was a news station I used to work for the KYMA website. Very quickly, Corinne Powell came calling and she threatened to sue because I detailed Lisa Marie Presley's efforts and her willingness to go against the Church of Scientology, despite the fact that she might be a victim of fair game. And as I'm sure you know, fair game is something where L. Ron Hubbard created the policy where anybody who's an enemy of Scientology, doing anything you can to completely eliminate and completely destroy them is fair game. So I was sort of fair gamed by the Church of Scientology. Corinne Powell, who's the main spokesperson, left a message in my called me on the phone saying, "Can you take this down?" I decided not to, even though I indicated I might. And she said, "All this stuff about fair game, I don't know where you get that." I was kind of playing dumb, and she thought I knew nothing about Scientology, and was just telling me how this was an attack on the religion and they don't fair game, and all this Lisa Marie Presley stuff in terms of the Danny Masterson victim was completely unverified, even though my sources were Variety, Law.com, that Dan Abrams, a noted anchor, runs, a lot of noted sites. It just wasn't the CNN or Associated Press who wasn't covering that aspect, but certainly other reliable news sources were. So they got me fired. And they essentially said that I was being a religious bigot and that I had a slant. Even though, if you look at the article, you'll see it's not much of a slant. I simply said Scientology has a history of fair gaming and a history of orchestrating internal power structures so they could go after you if you're their victim. And this is essentially verified stuff. So that was my experience with getting fair game by Scientology. And afterwards, what happened is I got fired, even though the owner of the station and my direct boss said what I said was factual, but that they didn't want to be victims of a lawsuit, even though Scientology hasn't sued anybody for about 20 years. That's a bit of a paper tiger. But I quickly, after that, kind of found a home with a lot of the anti-Scientology people. And one of the first people to have me on his YouTube was Aaron Smith Levin, which I'm very grateful for, and I'm a big fan of his. So want to talk about the incident. Aaron Smith Levin is now free. He is now out, but I was able to watch everything. I told you guys in the last video that I wouldn't do a video until I actually watched everything and got my own perspective on it. And I said maybe there's a trespassing thing, and they had an official rule that Aaron couldn't trespass and be within a certain amount of space of the Celebrity Center door, but that was not the case. What happened is there was this man with a dog, and he essentially directly threatened to fucking kill Aaron. Gave him a very direct threat before anything else. And then you can see him with his cane, or take back his cane, but probably physically punch Aaron. And then Aaron's down for the count. And then Aaron decides that, understandably, he wants to press charges. So then he has this fascinating conversation with the police. And you can all see this on his page, or Andrew Gold has a good synopsis of it as well. So he has this conversation with the police, and the weird thing that the police does is they say to him, well, if you press charges, then we're going to have to arrest you for felony stalking, which seems like a completely unrealistic stretch. Now, I will say that Aaron could have chosen not to press any charges, and he would not have been arrested. So in that some sense, he deliberately brought it on himself, but he was smart to bring it onto himself, because what Aaron realized is that him getting arrested would generate even more attention and thus hurt the church even more. So it was a very smart, tactful thing. And I admire Aaron's martyrdom in some regard, because even though he had a risk of, and he ultimately wasn't charged, no surprise, but even though he had a risk of getting a felony, ultimately, you know, his bread and butter, I think he's done some real estate, but now it's, I think, primarily YouTube. You know, for somebody to have a felony on their criminal history means it's so much harder to get a job. It's harder to get loans, harder to get housing, so many things. So he was taking a massive risk by continuing it. But he knew that if you were arrested, even for a moment or even further, that Scientology would get 10 times the attention it usually has gotten. And that's not to say it certainly has gotten attention already, but watch this be completely blown up. So he did something very deliberate, where his main mission in life is to have Scientology essentially throw up on themselves and self-destruct. And so he did a perfect job doing that. It is very clear looking at the interaction with the cops, and Aaron even noticed that there were two police copters overhead, which is completely bizarre considering this is a minor assault case that would usually never happen. So you see the selective enforcement that the LAPD employs because of their loyalty to Scientology. And again, you know, they apparently might have had some connections with the station, with the company that owned my news station. So you can see where they have all these, their hands in all these little different pots. But I think it was a smart move that Aaron ultimately did that. It gets a lot more attention from the movement. This TikTok stuff is blowing up. I'll probably go down there at some point once the primary is over and do some fun stuff as well myself. Probably out to LA because I'm going to go to Mexico, and so I think I do LA before I go down there. But it's smart because now the name of the game is just getting annoying Scientology so much where they create a drastic reaction which creates even more attention and even more negative publicity than they even had before. So Aaron, I admire that. He was risking felony assault. Luckily, all is well, and he wasn't even held over. I twice got arrested when I was younger, about 20 years old, for hopping over the New York City subway when I was broke and not paying for the turnstile. And the risk that Aaron ran is when I got arrested on a Friday, and ultimately when I saw the judge, he just let me free, obviously. But you're in a jail cell from Friday up until Monday, because it has nothing to do with bail. It's really waiting to see the judge, to see if the judge has a bail for you, if the judge will let you go, if the judge will keep you. But from Friday until Monday, you are stuck in this cell kind of in limbo. So Aaron really ran that risk. If Aaron was arrested, because this happened to me twice, when I was arrested on Wednesday, I got out the following day on Thursday. But then when I was arrested on a Friday, 6 months later, bit of a track history. That's the only crimes I have, is not paying for the New York City turnstile. But then when I went the second time, I got arrested on a Friday and wasn't released until Monday. So Aaron, having this be on a Friday, was really willing to sacrifice his entire weekend in jail. But obviously, this is a movement that is growing and growing and growing, and Scientology keeps trying to employ their classic methods that worked in the 2000s and the 90s and even early 2010s. But what they don't realize is that everybody is filming everything. That's why Aaron wasn't even charged, because he had all of the evidence on tape, and over 10,000 people were watching this live. So they used to be very secretive and behind the scenes and could kind of maneuver these things effectively when it was just a he said, she said battle. But now every single thing is on camera. So the more they get irked, they'll resort to their old ways, the more negative publicity they'll get. So very smart move. I'm glad Aaron is out. Big fan of his. I have my entire career, really, I have him to thank for my entire career. So don't have a lot of new insight, just aside from the fact that I kind of was fair gamed in a much more minor way. Nobody ever threatened arrest or anything. But yeah, very, very much on Aaron's side. I don't know if there's anybody who isn't, quite frankly, in this situation. And yeah, occasionally I'll do a few more updates if there's some big news in Scientology. And last thing about that, only because they do get a lot of views, understandably, and most of you are subscribed because of my role in Scientology. If you'd like me to go to LA, and this is post-primary when I think it heats up, so the timing is good. If you want me to go to LA and cover the lawsuit, the Leah Remini lawsuit, let me know. And I think I'm seriously considering kind of camping out there. I was going to go to South Carolina, so I'll just have a car, New Hampshire down to South Carolina, see the last primary. Maybe if they go on to Super Tuesday, Texas, and then guess what's just a little west of Texas, a little west of El Paso? That would be California, just 2 states over. So everything would kind of be on the way. So yeah, let me know if you want me to, because I definitely want to do some more Scientology stuff as well. So yeah, let me know if you want me to cover that. But thank you guys for watching, and if you're a supporter of Aaron, thank you for supporting Aaron. But this is yet another incident of Scientology unintentionally killing themselves. They are their own worst enemies. So it's always fun to watch, and just wanted to do this video to show my support and generate some attention against the Church of Scientology, which got me fired. So thank you guys for watching, and please do subscribe. That'll be much appreciated. Bye-bye.